So we have one, Allison won't be here today.
Okay.
She broke her leg.
Oh,
Her ankle.
make sure.
Okay, that's good.
Dude, definitely on.
Thank you.
Can I get more to Jennifer? All right.
Jennifer, one girl.
Thank you. Okay.
I would be still on the one point.
Oh.
You'll tell me. Except for 114. As much as I can, but I have to get some questions answered when I'm doing them. Yeah. Awesome. Good.
Hey,
So we ready?
I think so. Are you gonna walk us through it?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just go back and, some of the things that were left out, and we got our proposal back from you.
Okay.
Because we haven't really discussed it or looked at.
Okay.
You want to just go through them and then the whole thing one more time, the things that we're still bringing back, or how do you want to just do article by article? Is that the best?
Yeah, do you want to talk through article by article, and then if you had questions, I
Like if you
can.
have questions of us, since I'm
Okay,
bringing them back, or if I have questions about how we proceed.
okay, yeah, let's just play it by ear.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Is Jennifer with us?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's here. We're not double face.
Yeah.
If she speaks, so we're on speaker, but.
Yeah, you want to say hello?
Hi, Jennifer.
I guess not. Does not want to say hello.
I'm here.
So I guess Article 1, did you want to?
Sure.
Did you get before? I'll let you.
Preamble,
Yeah, that's a preamble.
okay.
Well, before we start, actually, anything in green is where I believe we have agreement. And everything in yellow is still what we're part.
And
And you
then,
see a lot of grammatical stuff in green.
and then you still have some of the blue.
The blue is only for the MOU stuff that we haven't agreed to roll in yet. There'll be only one section of that.
Okay, let me just look real fast because,
I think last time we had the grammar stuff in blue.
Yeah,
yeah.
The green. since
We've shifted
agreed
to
on
green
it.
because you told us it's okay.
oh, okay, got it. There, thanks.
And anywhere else where we're in green, we'll be in green too.
Okay, sounds good.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first, yeah, just grammar in 1.2 under bargaining unit.
Yeah,
Our next strike.
Can you give me one more minute? I need to go get some readers.
Ah,
Yes, you're all there. Well, you can't see to the green anyway. That's-
okay, we read that.
You don't have the eye.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, here's.
Which makes them right. Tim. Yeah, that's one. I've called a long time since you're gonna freak out for next to use control.
Right, I'm not sure.
Sorry about that.
All right.
All right, here you go.
Yeah, 1.2, like, right. That classified rep will be invited, give input, and change that to shall give approval. And that is regarding if the district creates new classified job and proposes excluding it from the bargaining unit as confidential. In 1.3, we'd like to change work days to calendar days. And we will 90. Same thing below that, in the last paragraph, changing 90 work days to calendar days. 1.45.4, we would like to strike out, and that is about hiring a single assistant to help with a special needs student, and whether whether or not their job can be terminated if that student or that job assignment is no longer available. The student moves. And 155, we agreed, that an employee will earn benefits during bus riding assignments.
All right, so Article 2, up above here, we're still striking the word specifically, limited, specifically, as in terms of limited terms of agreement. We want to utilize the agreement. Down below, we don't think there's any need to already cut a 90-day period to 44 days. If there's a change that we need to sit down and bargain with, Marion and Jennifer have done a pretty good job of working with me and Ryan to make sure that happens. I don't think we need to have this language. I don't think it serves a purpose other than to shorten the time period if we don't agree, which would be problematic for us, of course. And then I believe we're bringing under 2.2 under remuneration of rights, changing it to by. And then you'll notice that there's a lot of stuff that's not struck out on this particular proposal like there was in the others. And Jennifer made the point that, just because it's in the law, it doesn't mean it can't be in the contract, when she told me. So my concern, as I told you from day one, was conflicting with the agreement. I believe the new O we proposed to resolve that issue. So you have all the rights above unless we modify by the agreement. So I think I saw that in some other agreements, and I thought that might be an easy fix here. So we don't have to worry about things conflicting in the future. Article 3. What do you think?
So Article 3 on the contracting out, we have 3.5, the districts will not contract out any bargaining unit work during the life of the school. So that's our only change in Article 3.
So Article 4, you'll see it's all green because I believe this is the MOU. I believe we're in green in the MOU. We had one other piece that we had there about changing some signatures early on. We took that out and we just put out the existing MOU language. But 411 is new, and we didn't see the rest of the proposal. And I won't go through it again, it's exactly what you've seen before, but we do believe that it's important to include these things so that we're all on the same page in how we handle this stuff. Article 5.
Article 5 is on reclassification. And we still have the sentence up in the beginning where it adds, or if they believe the salary placement is incorrect, and then that. And 5.2, take out non-binary. And then again, we down here have the placement or salary placement issue to continue that part. And then employee status, no employee should be retaliated against for making a reclassification request. It's just something we feel needs to be added in there. It's kind of always a fear, not necessarily bad retaliation, but that we just feel comfortable listening. Coming back. Step placement or other remedy made by the committee, because sometimes it's not just about the range of step for what they're going to be at. There might be other recommendations that come from the committee. We'd like those to be part of it. And then again, down here, we'd like to change work to calendar days. On the back, there's the other remedy, which of course was transferred over from 5.4.
Can you give me an example of one? One way.
Like if we had a reclass where our thought was that perhaps a different position needed to be created, or some other solution to it, not just going from being, let's say, an EA2 to an EA3. Perhaps there needed to be some other thing that's outside of that family or something that they're doing, which isn't exactly in the job description.
Okay, thanks.
We've had that kind of thought, so something to talk about.
Okay.
And then the next. In the blue. All duties removed from the position shall remain within the bargaining unit. And then if the committee makes a recommendation to use classify or adjust. So that's sort of continuing with the other remedy. And then 5.7, only the ground of the reclassification or adjustment by the human resources director may be agreed. So Article 6, looks like there's a lot of green. When we get to the back side, and this is on work week and hours of work. Under 6.4.1, emergency callback, I'd like it to be guaranteed a minimum of 4 hours pay.
And that was the last proposal too, right?
And that was in the last. And then 6.6, like to change curriculum to be called professional development instead of curriculum training. Classified staff will be given the opportunity to participate in all professional development and training opportunities offered to the licensed staff. Classified staff should be given at least 48 hours notice for all mandatory trainings. And then 6.7, provide notification and access to classified services for children, IEPs, 504s, and behavior. Article 7. Article 7 is seniority and layoffs, and under 7.1, instead of 2 weeks, we'd like 30 calendar days notice to non-probationary employees that are going to be laid off. And layoff, we'd like to still take out professional delivery and just have it by certified mail.
Can I ask a quick question here for you, Ryan? When you talk about personal delivery, what do you mean? Part of the reason why we want it to be removed because it feels subjective and it could mean many things. How do you view that, what that would mean, the way that's stated? Would that be whether here at school you'd set them down and give them the letter or?
Yeah, that's, I think, personal delivery would be handled.
Okay, then we could maybe live with that if that's your definition.
Well, what definition are you thinking?
Well, personal delivery could mean anything. Somebody drops it at your house, you know, like you drop by the way home, right? So if you're saying that you're gonna set them down, what you mean by you're gonna set them down and give them to school where they can have their rep and everything, I think we're okay with that. We just needed some clarification around that.
Okay,
Thank you.
The next few pages. Until we get to 7.9.3. And this was where the laid off employees under 18 does not respond in 10 working days. Instead of 7 calendar days. And that's all in that section. And then article meters on personal records. And employee, when a former reprimand has been placed in their file, we would like it to. And they've been employed for 2 consecutive years after that. We'd like them for experience, not 3 years. And employees will have access to review their personal file during regular district office hours, not late. Okay. Article 9 is vacancies, job postings, and promotions. First one is under 9.2, the district will post all marketing unit job openings on the district page and email out to all classified employees. Job openings is what must strike out normally, the same job openings shall be open. And if the employer applies for the position, they will be interviewed. And we would like to cross out the interview the 2 of the best. And then under the next.
can I ask a question about that? Because we talked about this before with folks and the balance between what's working for the employee about the continue to be interviewed and also not necessarily receiving the job. Did you talk about that a little bit?
I think it's down below here, right? Saying if they're not selected after they've been interviewed. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, there it is.
But they still have to have the minimum qualifications, so it's not, just anybody can just apply.
Okay.
So. I could change that to that.
Thanks.
I think there's any more than that, fun article. Article 10. Be a really effort on this one. Salary schedules. I was breaking up the beginning part is. Because it doesn't apply anymore. It's from like 2011. It just doesn't seem to be there. And then what we'd like to add is any employee who is assigned translation or interpretation duties from English into a non-English language or from a non-English language into English shall receive a 5% pay bump only for the time they are assigned and performing the duties with a minimum of 1 hour pay at the height.
And I thought that is 3 to 5 language.
Right. And, yeah, let's go back up to that. And that's good. we also would like it to be the top 5 languages. Not the top 3. Or better yet, any languages. So that would be our priority. 10.2.1. Cross out. That part. All those voices, step advancement are defined as those who what? Who are employed for 90 hours. Okay. And then 10.2.2, notification shall be given to the association of any employee denied a step because of job performance. And then the completion bonus. This is something that's been really important to a lot of the members. As we've been going on and on, as more and more of our members are degreed and more of our jobs we need to have degrees for.
Mhm.
So this was just our start and something we can speak about at some point on the table to help get this started. In November of each year, the district will provide a one-time bonus to employees in the unit who have any of the below degrees or the degree or licenses are agreed to by the district and the union. The bonus will be paid out with the December paycheck.
And just to add some more clarity on that. If you paid them this November for having their AA, next November, you wouldn't pay them again for their AA, but if they got their,
VA.
their VA, so you're not paying every year.
Yep.
And I think next, 10.3.1. This is the part.
Yeah, we deleted our proposal in our 10.3.1.
Mhm.
And then down below, we've got the definitions of what we'd like for people that are moved versus people that are disciplined. I think that's it for that page. The next page, I showed green. Yeah, under longevity pay. Oh, that's further up. The green on top of the page here, I believe we're in agreement on how that will work for the returning retiree. I did take out a redundant word there. It's a returning, like it said retiree, returning retiree or something like that. So I just cleaned that up a little. So hopefully that still works for you. Then down below, you can see in 10.6, we struck the current longevity language. And we just added employees that reach the top will get an extra 5% annually. They have to go on the coaching.
Yeah, the coaching stuff is the stuff we talked about before that we came to agreement with. Stuff that we worked out in the committee with the certified union and you all.
Okay.
And then we also the same for 10.1. 10.14 would be classified staff together to the district, the same policy. And right above it, with the 50 cents. So that is good. 10.15, fingerprinting and any other district required certifications will be paid up front by the district employees and not paid out of pocket. And particularly hard as like new people coming in and have it work, we just don't have the funds. And some of it is not just $50.
We've heard from a lot of people about how much of a barrier the federal cost is up front when they're coming into a job.
Which is.
The fingerprinting cost, especially that's a little, because that's a higher one than say a food service card, it's just $10 or something.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
So 10.17 was the overview that we tried to pull in, but we tried to update into weaponized body fluids and materials. I think we spoke pretty much through.
Yeah, I was pulled off the document you had. It was just updated with a couple, I think, some bodily fluids versus one specific fluid. Down at 10.18, why this is still in blue, right, is because this is what our MOU says. But I was unclear that you guys agreed to roll it into, like the other MOUs, to roll it into the contract or not. So I didn't put it in green until I had that verification. This is what our current MOU said.
Okay. Can you, where did this come from? You said you cut and pasted it from someone else.
Yes, there's an MOU that talks about weaponized bodily fluids that exists already. I believe it expired in 2019. And Jennifer had made mention of it before, and so I went back, found it and pulled it over here and put it into the contract as one of our proposals.
Okay,
But technically it hasn't expired as an MOU,
okay,
that's why it's in yellow.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And before, I think it referred only to fecal material.
It did.
And we're wanting to expand it to recognize any bodily fluid, whether urine, vomit, that.
All of the above.
So it's a little different than the MOU. I just because we'll go back and look at the MOU. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
Variation.
There is, it's slightly,
Okay.
slightly over.
there was something since that MOU was for a specific location and thing that was happening at that time. So to pull it over, we tried to make it more universal.
Got it.
It's definitely a hazardous situation.
You want to speak to this one, I think?
Yeah, sure. So this would be basically a differential for employees who are put in a situation that might cause them physical or emotional distress or discomfort or harm, physical harm that requires, that goes outside the scope of their required duties for their in their job description.
And then 10.20, this is basically a safety valve for us, you know. Going back with your contracts, this last year, the first time it had been used in 20 or 30 years, probably longer. But obviously, we'd like to safeguard ourselves in the future if something like this, runaway inflation happens again. That's why we included this language. I don't know how much we'll use it. Better to have it than not. It's hard to pull up.
All right, insurance. This is one that's important to me. I think the main thing pulling from this is the insurance prorate. Full-time employees, we would like to lower it to 6 hours. So many of our employees, especially our EAs, et cetera, IAs are 6.5 hours. And that is their full-time job. This is what they do. And we feel that they should be covered as full-time employees under insurance. And so all the changes, change the hours and the minutes reflect that, the changes in the chart. And that's our basis on this. We should seriously think about this one and hopefully have some further conversation. Holidays. Yes, please, because I'm still.
So here, well, I did miss the comma, the Veterans Day thing, and that should be green also. But what you're seeing green there is changing MLK, spelling it out properly to Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And then the Juneteenth, which is rolled over into our MOU, is already agreed to. The stuff remaining in yellow is still what we're asking for to give our folks more time off. Following page, that's the same stuff you've seen before as well. It's basically just if you work through the holiday, you get paid for the holiday. If they grant another drink with the holiday, we don't have to classify, we can get it as well. And then you go to 13 vacation. I believe this proposal, we've backed off the hours slightly, but it's still, it's the same thing. Is it the same? Yeah. Good catch. All the sense that we did that thing. Wrong through. So this is exactly what we've seen before. The difference is on the back here. Then you turn to the next page in 13.3.3.4. We've adopted your language there. So that's the change there.
Any questions on that? Okay, so Article 14 is, oh boy, all the news. Bereavement leave, we would like to go from 3 to 5. It just seems with travel and everything else that 5 would make way more sense. And it seems to be what employees need. And they, employees should be entitled to additional 5 unpaid leave days per death as needed. These days do not need to be taken consecutively. With reading it, it's hard to just say, you're gonna take the day that you travel. Employees shall provide the immediate supervisor, not the district, with the notice in advance of their attention to take the leave, except in case of emergency. And then 14.2.5, each employee, we'd like to strike out who's worked the full contract year, shall be paid for any unused personal days. 14.3. This is where we would like to have there be the 10 closure emergency leave days, and we found out with COVID and with other. It's like future natural disasters. If these days are needed, they would have them in there. Other districts are adopting these, and it just seems like a good time to do this. As we've lived through this these last years. Then they'll be there in our back pocket without having to scramble. And we've agreed to 14.4.1 school cancellation. School office and staff of 225 calendar days or more to report to work, and if unable, to use district closure leave. And we'd like to strike out personal leave. You should not have to use that. And then further down in, we would also take out, instead of may, we like will use district code closure leave. We just do not want the personal leave should not have to be used. And the same down under 14.4.2. Personal leave again, 14.4.3, personal leave again. On the next page, nothing until partway down at 14.7, sick leave and pay. So crossing out usually, because leave shall not be required. That needed to be there. And if medical evidence indicates employee can return to the duties of the return or continued absence of terminating sick leave shall be considered available as terminal leave. And this will then be reported to the PERS system upon retirement. And the district shall follow the Oregon sick leave law, including mental health and wellness days, and that's just in there again. So that people know it's in the contract. Jury duty, I think we worked on this a lot last part of it, and there's just one thing, day shift employees will be required to report to work if the jury duty ends on any day. Like to strike out in time to commit at least 2 hours work when the district hasn't either hired a sub for the day or 50% of the regular shift runs. Let's replace with that. Legal leave, we just added, I'll agree to read and then Article 4, which is that big article we did, which follows the law. That's our article that we referred to. 14.1. Leave without pay, leave of absence. We tried to cross out in the district's judgment. And also add leaves will be granted as needed and not needed. And 14.11 we took out because of that.
Replace with
Article 4. And then 14.11, the new one, employees will have the choice of cashing out 100% of their sick leave at the time of retirement or sending it to PERS. 14.12, any employee that has a calendar of 210 or less shall receive one discretionary workday that can be used as a full day or in half days. It should be used in coordination with the employee supervisor. But I think depending on how we're adding those 2 days, that may not be necessary now because we're adding days to the calendar every week for next year. So that's what we'll have to look at. I just needed to check on those days because it looked like some may have got 2 days, some may have got 1 day. We can verify. Whether it's by level. So we just kept it in there until we can do that. And Article 15 is
Mayor, Zach, do we have any way of knowing how the sound is working if people are being able to hear us very well via the owl?
Jennifer could probably, she's probably hearing the same audio.
Jennifer, are you being able to hear us pretty well? Just do that check. I remember some of the numbers.
It's so. I'm doing my best to be able to hear you, but probably not as clearly as if I was in the room.
So just speak up a little bit more.
It might also be based on location, Ryan. I can hear you pretty clearly, which I'm guessing either you're talking louder or closer to the owl.
We'll move, I think let's just move it a little bit closer to Mary. Oh, see?
From the outs. Chords are okay, chords are okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, sick leave bank, there's just a few things, under 15.2, exclusions from eligibility under this paragraph include but are not limited to substitute, temporary, and student employees. I think limited term employees should be allowed. And then under 15.5, we would also like employees to be able to donate up to 200 hours to the sick leave bank at the employee's discretion. Been used quite a bit recently, and then we keep having to pull 2 days from people, and then there's a lot of people, since currently our sick leave doesn't go to anything else, that would like to be able to donate to a sick leave, for others to be able to use sort of our own little sick leave bank, I call it, that's extra time. And then all the rest of the green and the debris too, I think that would be thank you from you all. And then Article 16, there's a lot of green. I think there was just one thing under 16.1A, where tuition and fee reimbursement for classes, workshops, and other tests with passing results related to the employee's duties and renewal/relicense related costs. It'll just be in addition to that. The rest seems all due to just yellow for no reason.
They could do it all.
Okay. All right, Article 17 was the JLMC. Where it's like this green, quite a few places, some of it I'm sure was the prior blue. And then under 17.7 is compensation. In order to attend meetings, classified members of the JLMC will flex their work schedule up to 2 hours per month. If flexible work scheduling is not possible, each member will receive compensation at their assigned pay rate.
And I believe that the struck portion also is in conflict with Article 4 as well, and the law.
If they're allowed to have the time to do things. Article 18 was uniforms, and we had agreed on a lot of that. We made a little change to 18.5 because it was vague. In 18.5, where the district shall give their employees a $100 boot shoe stipend annually for the employees under Article 18. Before it didn't exactly say which employees, and this is just for the ones that are covered under this article that get the uniforms, not all employees. And that was a change on that. And then Article 19.1, under every new employee hired into the bargaining unit shall serve a probationary period. We'd like that to go to 6 months. I think 9 months is too long. Article 20. I don't think there was much under this. We still would like under 20.2. And we also probably have to change it above to have flagrant gross misconduct instead of flagrant misconduct. So we can change it.
Where's the other spot that you need to?
The title.
The title.
Okay.
And then some greens, and then under 20.3.1 exceptions, notwithstanding Article 20.2, any employee who has completed an initial probationary period and subsequently been promoted may be returned to the employee's previous job classification within 30 days of the date of the promotion.
Article 21 is exactly what you said before. To use Jennifer's terms, we just want to follow the law for the most part. Article 22, we had some agreements in there. Obviously 22.25, we want to change that to shall. When it comes to grievances, once the grievance is filed, it's in the domain of the union. The union has final disposition of that grievance, and therefore it's responsible for it for every step of the way. So legally, we want to make sure we're there, we're being involved, because we can be held accountable through lawsuits if things go on there that we don't handle. And that's largely where we want to strike a lot of the language on the next page that you see there in yellow. So forms for processing grievance is, we don't have forms anymore. I mean, I don't know any chapter uses forms. We send emails because you have to return email showing that they got it, and, you know, it's just kind of outdated language. And then 22.3.5, I believe, is a violation of Article 4 and the law. We have language around how that will be handled when we have to deal with groups in different areas. And same thing with 22.3.6. Again, we have language in Article 4 how to handle that and the law. Again, 22.3.8, I believe that's a violation of the law and Article 4. We have a process that we've bargained into that MOU that states how we'll handle this stuff. A lot of this, I think we just haven't updated since we had the House Bill 2016. Down below, we want to keep the 30 days. And the reason why is because I'd rather bring you something that has a complete understanding that's been investigated really well, so you understand what it is, rather than hurry and file something with you, then go back and try to figure out what happened. I'd rather we were talking about something that is really clear to both parties, so we can have an informed decision going forward from there. So that's why you see that change still at 30 days. I know a lot of unions want to cut it down so you can process faster and get through the process faster, but I found having a complete case that makes sense to everybody, even if we don't agree, seems to make it a lot easier to get the resolution. Okay, so 22.4.2. No problem putting the grievance to writing, but signing it seems a little outdated if we're filing electronically. And then the next page says supervisor has the administrative authority to act. Well, grievances typically, when they're written, go to the next stage, which usually is HR, so or the principal. So I would imagine that that's not something we really need there, because I don't know why they would go to somebody different than those people. And further on down, facts and contract article, why we cross that out is because there could be issues that are related to other things other than the contract article that the person is grieving, that we'd like to handle in-house versus having to go through other processes that take that control from us and have a third party come in and explain exactly what we're going to do instead of us just resolving it. We like to keep things in-house and try to resolve them there first before doing those kinds of things. And then this last sentence seemed arbitrary and capricious. It just says the reasons why I agree to consider the decision rendered not is unacceptable. Why does that matter? If we don't agree, we don't agree. I don't know why we have to give you the soliloquy on why we disagree. That just seems like a jab in the ribs for no apparent reason. If we're not agreeing, we're not agreeing. We're going to be sitting there having the discussion like adults, and we're going to come to our decisions, and we may not agree. Why I would have to write down why I don't agree when we just had this meeting, found this out. Like I said, just feels like a jab in the ribs, doesn't serve any purpose for the process. Under 22.4.4, this quite honestly feels idiotic to me. I don't know why it's in your contract. I've never seen it in another contract. Why would you not want to know, says the association may carry a grievance procedure to level 3, only specific grievances filed level 1. If you found information that better proved your case, or we found art, why would we not bring that forward so we'd have a complete case? This makes no sense to me. And I guarantee an arbitrator is going to look at it. So this makes no sense. I don't know why we would have this. It seems to be a hindrance to us actually solving the problem before arbitration. Because my experience anyway, almost 30 years of doing this, is you can say what it wants here, when you get to the arbitration level and you submit it, you can object, the arbitrator will give it the weight it deserves, since the fact that they always look at it anyway. So why would we try to use it to resolve something at a lower level and save ourselves a lot of time? And then 22.4.5, again, we just think this is a much cleaner way to say what you're saying below. Obviously a lot less words. It's just a much cleaner process. But we understand if you are attached to this language below here, we may have some ability to manipulate that in a way that slims it up a little and makes it a little more direct. But that's the main reason for that. It's just we want to change that so it's a little clearer and straightforward. With that, I'll turn it over to 23, to Mary.
So 23 is safety and.
So before you start, I just want to kind of say or remind you know, 3 years ago, this article didn't exist at all. And we back and forth, and I would even say dialogued quite a bit to reach what we have right now. And when we were doing that, we were knowing there was problems and we put this together to address them. But we also knew that at the time, when we even said that we were gonna have to relook at it after it was in effect for a while and see what changes were needed. And we've had the opportunity to hear from staff about what worked well, what didn't work well, what parts were missed. So the changes we're looking to make here, I would say this is an important one because these are things we've heard from staff about what has or hasn't worked. And I do appreciate like the dialogue and input with you guys as we're doing this, talk about this one right now, because safety, you know, it's just one of our biggest things. Yes, we want to be well paid and have good benefits, but you know, at the end of the day, we also all want to feel safe again. So with that said, Article 23.2, we agreed with the green language, but we do want to take out the word serious bodily injury, because we want to look at any bodily injury. And we don't want the subjective of what's serious or not. So in the reading of it, any employee who is required to work in situations that may carry potential for bodily injury shall receive information on their potential work environment and be provided necessary training for such duties and or situations prior to being placed in said environment. If employee notifies administrator supervisor that training is insufficient with regards to safety or scope, training will be reevaluated and additional training offered. And that is that sentence there is to replace that if training is deemed insufficient with regard to safety or scope, additional training opportunities must be sought. The onus is on if they've said it, we want that collaborative, you guys will collaborative provide it, not that they have to figure out what they need and ask for it.
So that part should be highlighted, right? Because
I think so, yeah. That was supposed to be highlighted.
that's okay, I thought so, I just wanted to make sure.
And of course, the cost that's already in there that you guys would, the district would pick up the cost, or the district would pick up the cost. And then adding in that safety plans shall be reviewed at least once a quarter if changes are made. Changes will immediately be shared with all affected staff who work with the student. I want to say that we hear from people that there's safety plans in place and they don't always know if there's a change, you know, with the student they work with. And they, you know, we've heard, and again, that's substantiated, but anecdotal, that there are safety plans that maybe haven't been updated in a long time on some students. So wanting to know that they are being reviewed, making sure they're still applicable and the changes are made by the staff who work with the kids in those potentially dangerous times, you know, what they say. Skipping down to number 4, if a bargaining unit member is assaulted, injured, and we want to add the word injured, or threatened in connection with employment, the bargaining unit member will immediately notify the principal and or their supervisor who will complete the district's incident report form. And copies of this form will be available in each building and online, and that is in place. We want to add immediately following such incidents, the employee will be placed on a break for a minimum of 15 minutes. During this time, the employee is excused from their job duties and must not return to work again until at least 15 minutes have passed and their supervisor deems they're ready to return to work. This additional break time is separate from regularly scheduled breaks and must be taken separately after each incident. Again, anecdotally, we've heard from staff in different buildings that, as almost anything can be, this is interpreted differently in different buildings. And some staff is offered, if someone does no, I'm fine. You know, they might be hopping on the link because the other one's cut off, but they're fine, they're going to keep going, kind of thing. And that's a good exaggeration of just the concept. People tend to say they're fine, but in the moment, the adrenaline's still there. And whether they really think about it or not, that break is an important piece for them to recalibrate. And recognizing that some incidences might be small and some are larger, and they might need more time. And we really want an emphasis put outside by the district to administrators to uniformly be having this happen in their building so that some staff don't feel potentially that their building isn't giving it to while others are, because that doesn't feel good. Under 5, we'd like to cross out the part that says at the discretion of the superintendent or human resources department, director. A lot of times in the moment, somebody might ask to be assigned a different duty because they're feeling unsafe. And that might happen internally for a day or something, and that's not really spelled out here. So saying that it has to be at the superintendent or HR director's level doesn't take into account that it might be something being done within the school for a few days while those things are figured out and maybe possibly done that. Just that it can be done, and whoever's got the authority to do it can do it. So just removing that language. Under 6, sorry guys. any student is causing injury to staff members on a pattern or routine basis, the school administration or employee subject to injury may request to convene a response team in order to review and update the student's safety plan. Some new language, adjusted language we want to put in is, once the request for review is made, the response team has 10 work days to conduct their review and inform the employee of the outcome. The affected employee will be invited to provide input and be part of the team if possible. The employee has the right to request district review and may appeal the outcome to the assistant superintendent. Again, what we've heard some there is that they give the information and they don't hear anything else. So it's kind of, did the team happen or not? Do they have a disposition? And granted, you might not know everything, but having some kind of closure, we all know when something hard has happened, we want some type of closure. So that wrap back around is a very important piece that we want our employees to know they're entitled to and that they will receive. Under number 7, the association chapter president, which we agree with, and at least one standing designee will be a member of the district safety committee. We just want to make sure that we have that voice to be part of that. So number 8 is new. And we're just adding in some new safety things we've seen. So 8 says district cannot implement or require any health measures that are not required by fed or state law without an MOU from OSCA. 8A says any measure agreed to under this and expire when the state or federal requirements expire. And again, any sick leave that staff is required to take in order to comply with this will not be charged to their sick leave balance and will instead be paid by district. This shall not apply to leave of absence taken in order to not comply with the federal or state law. And this is obviously directly, has come up out of the current pandemic that we're all in, that employees, there's a temptation sometimes potentially to do things we just don't have protection to know that we stay compliant.
So is this about vaccine? This is.
It could potentially be about a vaccine, like say that we could extrapolate an example that the state is requiring only the vaccine and we as a district decide to require the booster when the state's not. In order to require that, the union would have to agree to it and that type of thing, anything above and beyond what the state requires for health reasons, for the health and safety factors.
Okay.
Article 24, we still have the waiver struck above. We believe that it's not appropriate in here since the appellate court ruled in the Mahoma Fall case that they were not legal. Other than that, the only other change down below you've seen before, and again, I got to point out the last sentence here, the idea that if somebody didn't contact you by a certain date, this contract would go on. The perpetuity is a bit silly. Gotcha clause. Time for that to go. And I don't think that either group wants to sit by and just let that happen. We want to meet, so I don't think that it would happen anyway. But it just seems silly to have it in there, especially since there's no ramifications for the district. Seems a little one-sided. And with that, you have our main proposal. Now we'll pass out our first year financial and.
Yeah, under the has duration, and right now we still have the 1 year, but depending on how this goes, we have to look into additional.
Yes, of course. There you go. And this is nothing we haven't seen before, Ryan. It's kind of where we're still at on this piece of it. I think until we get some more language figured out, I think we're gonna probably be here for a minute. And here's a couple extra for you for your folks. And I think two of these are really, we probably are okay with, I'd imagine, on your side. I won't speak for you, but my guess is second and third bulletin are probably good. We're already doing the third one already.
Yeah.
So the first one's really the change. We're still asking $4 an hour. We want to be competitive with your districts near you. And I'm browsing the list right now, which I can absolutely provide to you if you like, of contracts that we keep track of, settle them. We've got a number of people getting 10.6%, $2, or different things like amounts in multiple years. And so if you want to see that, I can share that with you as well. I can print it out, give it to Mary, she can share it with you. don't know how much informed your decision here, but it is what's happening in the world. And we're a little concerned that we'll lose people to those other opportunities if we don't do something. We don't know if this is the right number necessarily, or we'll agree, but it's where we're still at this moment, where we're working on this language stuff, so.
And also, I guess, if you guys, when you do caucus or whatever, if you could kind of look at the insurance piece, because this is, we've been working on insurance, and we kind of need to, it would be nice to know where we're gonna land, so we can figure out the monies from the health savings account and everything. Our health account, not the other HSA, so that we know, monies that we can put in and which employees that will affect. That's kind of important right now, we have deadlines coming. Yeah, sometimes we have to reach agreement on that piece ahead of time.
Okay. And I think in that article, we're agreeing to the amount, but not to the years yet. I think we're at.
Yeah, that's what the hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the, we can talk about. We can do that.
Right.
We went through really fast, when we do value the dialogue. Are there any other sections that you're wondering about the whys behind or any questions that we presented?
I do have a couple of questions if others don't.
Go ahead.
So going back just to the beginning, I just want to clarify, this is Article 1. And so it's under 1.3, substitute temporary employees. Your proposal is changing work days to calendar days. And what let me just make sure I have the right one. Wondering about is when we think about, for example, December, when we talk calendar days, there's typically about 2 weeks that individuals aren't working. And so I don't know if there was just any discussion of recognizing points in time in the school year that calendar days makes a bigger difference when you think about the work needed.
So I think we did have discussion about the 90 calendar days. And the idea here is that, we're trying to give you time to hire, to do the things you need to do to bring in those new employees, right? So I think I hear what you're saying, and I suspect that we can't ever bargain a perfect solution, but we'd be willing to look at some counters to that if you could give us some good reasons why they should be more than 90 days. Like you mentioned, like certain times of years or different things. We'd be willing to look at some counter proposals along those lines. But our thinking is that 90 days generally should be enough time to get that person replaced, hire somebody. In theory, I know hiring is tough right now, but that's the thinking on this side of the table.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I had a question on 14.10, the green, the last bit of green. Is that just not a complete statement?
if you want to get back there.
District proposal, leave hours 2.
Yeah, that's actually an error on my part. I'm not supposed to see that.
Oh, sorry.
I think we were certainly around agreeing with your proposal.
Okay.
But I would want to confirm that with our team before I commit to that. I think your proposal was that nobody that had, that didn't have seniority can take unpaid leave. So I think we were looking at adopting that, but we just didn't get it done here.
Okay, I have a question about Article 5. So I didn't, it appears that most of your language is the same as last time. So I'm wanting to understand a couple pieces within this. And the first is the reclassification, including your very first statement, if individuals believe their salary placement is incorrect. And if I recall last time, I also asked about kind of a timeline within that. So, someone who's been here 5 years and then thinks maybe their salary placement was not correct. Is that also a part of this, or was there any discussion about a time frame?
So I think that they could bring that to that committee, and ultimately that committee would have the ability to make that decision. But any retro pay would be based on what the committee comes up with. So it wouldn't necessarily be 5 years, right? It would be based on what they come up with. But in that scenario you gave, yes, that could be a person who, realizes that, I don't know who that is, but realize it's 5 years later, they're being paid incorrectly, they could bring that to that committee for resolution.
It could be their job has changed, you know,
Right.
have a lot of jobs. And did additions to it, things that come up now, their job is different.
Yeah, we're trying to give that committee the ability to, the union and the management folks, that ability to come up with that resolution, what that would be.
So then along those lines, help me understand if the committee, which we know the committee is the one who forwards the recommendation, then your last statement is if the individual is not happy with the decision, really the denial of a reclassification or adjustment, then it's aggrieved. But a committee, which is part of your members, are the ones who make the decision. So I do not understand the reason for this.
Are we talking about 5.7?
Yes.
That actually is saying that you cannot grieve a committee decision. If the union and the company side come to an agreement about what should happen, that's the end of it, you know, that's what it is. If we can't agree there, and then it goes to the HR director, and the HR director doesn't agree, then theoretically that could be grieved. We still have to prove our case, because we're the moving party, but that's the only situation that could be grieved. The decision of the committee is final, it is not subject to the grievance procedure.
But that's not what this says.
So the only denial of reclassification or adjustment by the human resource director may be agreed. So I guess I can put in there that the committee will not be agreed, but the implication there is that that the committee decisions are final, but I can certainly put that into there if that would be helpful.
That would be helpful, because that's not how I read it.
Okay, fair enough, yeah, that's.
Because
that's a good
again,
point.
I think it's important to understand that the committee is the one who makes the recommendation. The HR
Right.
department simply implements that. And what's happening is actually based on how this is written, it looks like a person chose to make a decision that someone is not happy with. That's not how this process works.
Well, we could put a piece in there that says that instead of the human resource director, that it goes to the, if we can't agree, that we go to the superintendent. They do that in a lot of other areas. To have a new fresh set of eyes look at it, and then if that would be the piece that would only be grieved if it was denied there too. So we'll modify this and come back with something for you that see to answer some of these questions. Not a problem. I appreciate the input.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think in some things, Hobie, just to kind of put it on the table, based on some of your language that you're bringing back or wanting to strike and some of more of the legalese, I think there may be some difference of opinions between our legal counsels, because we also had our legal counsel review and provide information. And so we may need to have to figure out how we want to work through that, because with attorneys helping both sides, and that seems to be the difference. You keep referencing that, and I also keep checking in with our attorney in regards to that. So I just want to put that out there, because I think there's a bunch of pieces in here that fall under that umbrella.
Is your attorney Nancy Hungerford?
The Hungerford, yes.
Okay. I guess if you're okay with it, I have to talk to them about another chapter. I can ask them their logic behind this and then take that back to my attorney if you're okay with that when I call them about my other issue.
Well, I mean, I would prefer to be the one that talks to our attorney and has them talk to you versus you just going directly.
Okay.
to the hearing.
Yeah.
So yes.
No, that's fine. Fine. And I guess we'll have to figure that one out. We'll have to, when you get back, let's set up a time, we can try to figure out how to get that done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think at this point, those are all my questions.
Okay.
I think, so I had one more, and that was about the emergency leave. Where's that at? It went from, I just had a question because it went from 1 to 10, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
So just, can you give me a little bit more information about why the
Sure.
should change?
Well,
Big,
yeah, mainly because it doesn't cost the district any money. The district is allotted, if you're a 180-day employee, they're allotted that in their budget every year. If you knock 2 days off for snow, the district still gets the same amount of money for their budget, right? Now, I mean, you knock enough days off, we have issues with having enough days and, you know, to get your funding for that. But that's not really what we're talking about here. Also because most of the districts that I'm dealing with are moving to this. Dallas just proposed unlimited, Cascade is unlimited. Lincoln County, it sounds like they're gonna come back to probably 10, Silver Falls is at 10. We're at 5 at North Sunny. It's just one of those things where they're realizing that it's just not real healthy for employees to burn up their personal leave, sitting at home where they can't do anything, they're trapped there, and that leave's meant to be taken to go get away for a second, have some time to themselves, them and their family. And that's the main reason that we're putting that forward here. Because the budget impact isn't the same. Because these people don't just get these days, the board has discretion to make up the days too, right? So they would make up the days without pay. So that's the logic behind it anyway. Okay, that helps.
Yeah, that helps.
And if I can, we brought this up at other times, but a lot of it has, there's a lot of feelings among classified staff of almost having to come in. So you've already used your personal leave because you have a big wedding to go to in October. And then the weather cancellations are happening and you're gonna go into unpaid leave if you don't come in, even if it's really not feeling safe to do so where you live. But they're still trying because they don't have the leave. So that puts a lot of pressure and stress on classified staff, whereas we have this district lead recognizing that if you need to stay home, you stay home and not worried that you'll have enough to pay rent next month. A lot of our classified staff do have that paycheck to paycheck thing. Did I say that right?
Right. All to be clear, this would be days that the school has been deemed closed by a superintendent.
Yes, that is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, I do have a couple more questions. I apologize.
You gave her more time.
I know you didn't get out fast enough. I'm sorry. And I think Isaac spoke to this, but I'm just wondering if maybe an example can be provided for 10.19 hazardous situations.
Like what that would look like, or a definition kind of thing?
Well, yeah, sort of an example of what falls under that, because I'm wondering if there's just a need for clarity. And that's why I just wanted to better understand a situation that might fall under this.
Did you have an example, Isaac?
You're being hit on the job on a daily basis, and the remedies that are being provided by the district do not alleviate the problem.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And I also want to clarify through that, has there been an opportunity for the district to make some adjustments, and does that fit within how it's currently written?
Yeah, there's definitely been room for the district to make adjustments.
Okay.
And there's really no improvement.
And I think a portion of this too is recognizing the person's, dealing with this trauma, they need a minute to themselves just to regather themselves. That it sounds like we don't particularly have at the moment here. Am I getting that wrong, Isaac?
This would be more like recurrent duties, and particularly ones that are outside your job description,
Oh, I see.
or rather conditions that you're enduring that are outside of your job description.
I think there is one more, but I need to find it. So my apologies. I don't have it readily available. Oh, it was under 14. Marcy, it was the one you spoke about regarding, I think the example was more or less about COVID.
Point three.
Very last.
I spoke to, under the safety article,
Maybe, let me see if
poll 23.
23, yeah.
So.
okay, yes, thank you.
Under
It's,
section 8, the district cannot implement, require any health measures that are not required by federal or state without an MOU with OCA.
yes, thank you. That is the one, and it's B. And so my wondering if there was any discussion as you talked about this, and maybe it's just an understanding of clarity. So, and I believe this again probably came from COVID. The district offered district covered leave during the time people were masked. Once individuals, we no longer had that requirement, people made different choices in their lives. Some continued to go out and about in the public. Sometimes it's hard to determine then where maybe they became ill, whether it was out in their own socialization in their personal life or whether it was at school. And so the way I'm reading this sort of makes it open-ended, is someone could go out and have a great time in some party infested type of event, and then come in, and because they are ill and need to stay out, then the district is asked to cover that. And then that's an extreme, I realize that, but you used an extreme example earlier. So just trying to better understand.
That is fair. I mean, to the extreme versus extreme on the examples. When reading this, it says that they're required to take an order to comply with this. And yes, that would fall under being told that they have to stay home for symptoms or different things. Guys, I'm gonna say out loud right now that I'm struggling really bad with the Tourette's and it's affecting my voice. So I'm gonna stop talking and let Mary.
So I think the intent behind this is, and if you have a better way of writing it that we can see, we'll be willing to look at that. But I think the intent here is like, if you are meant to comply with, like it says, comply with and not be charged for sick leave, something that the district wants to do, require, then the district should cover that. Because we have to comply with what the district is saying, right? So I understand your example, but I don't think it's spot on for what we're talking about right here. We're saying this is something that the district is requiring us to do above and beyond. And so we want to make sure that our folks are getting paid for that time. Not using their sick leave. Now, the scenario would be something that would fall into that. Maybe it's an extreme example, but it could fall into that. So if you have a better way of writing what we're trying to get to, which is basically if you're requiring it, we want our folks to be paid. If you have a better way of saying that we have here, we would take a look at that for sure, give that some scrutiny.
I appreciate that. I think both parties want to create language that is clear and helpful, but also doesn't set up either the district or an employee where it appears someone is taking advantage of a system. And so that's why I just needed to try and understand where you were coming from on that.
Sure. Yeah, it's understandable.
Okay, I
I wish we had those magic words that would just make it perfect today. As you've been around long enough to see it, always think one thing and it turns out another sometimes. So if you have some better version of this, we would definitely want to take a look at that so we can try to get closer to those magic words, even if we don't get all the way there.
Okay, it's just helpful to understand where you were coming from. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and I truly think that's my last question for now.
Let's be sure. Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you for enduring our proposal here. It was long, but you have it all.
And so, in terms of the,
You won't get back to us.
by 3 o'clock,
Yeah.
probably not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, just so you don't.
So what we do need to do is set up some future, we don't have any
Yeah,
future dates.
right.
So we need to set up.
And
future
actually,
dates.
can we talk it for a few
Sure.
minutes and then come back on that?
Can you look on that?
Yeah.
Great.
Mary, insurance.
We talked.
We talked about it.
Right, I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Come back at 3 to talk about scheduling
No, we need to come back before 3.
before 3.
Yeah,
About a half hour. You guys.
yeah, let's shoot for half hour.
So that we can kind of get our dates and stuff and who's got what.
Okay.
So 2:40.
Okay, thank you.